Hello, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to this licensing subcommittee meeting on the 29th of June at 2 o'clock. My name is Councillor John Andrews, and I'll introduce my two fellow councillors. On my left, I have
Councillor Susan Cocking. I'm a Dorset councillor representing Portland Ward.
And I'm Councillor Brian Heatley from Rodwell and Wyke in Weymouth.
Thank you, councillors. Now, my first item on the agenda is elected chairman for the meeting. Do I have a nomination?
Yes, I'd like to nominate Councillor John Andrews as chair.
And can I second that, please?
Thank you very much, councillors. So I'll now work through the procedure of what the meeting will take today. We've got a few items of business, just tick boxes that we need to do. Yeah, I will do. Yeah. So first of all, I'll introduce the officers that are here today, or they'll introduce themselves. We'll start with legal. Okay, now we go to Democratic Services.
John Miles, Democratic Services. I'll be taking the minutes for this meeting.
And Elaine Tibble, Democratic Services.
Senior Licensing Officer.
I'm Catherine Miller, Senior Licensing Officer and Report Author.
Could I ask the applicants to introduce themselves, please?
Chair, good afternoon. My name is Richard Taylor. I'm a solicitor for ASDA. With me, I have Neil Eccles, who is ASDA's National Licensing Manager.
Thank you very much, Mr. Taylor. An objector?
Thank you, Chair. My name is Larry Austin. I'm a resident of Milbourne Road in Ferndown.
Thank you very much, Mr. Austin. So, just to let you know the procedure of the meeting today. If I can find it. Oh, I'll have that one. Thank you. Easier to read stuff. So, just to explain, we give everybody the chance to speak and everybody to have their say. So we will start with the licensing officer, and she will give us a report. Then Mr. Austin and the applicant will have a chance to ask, as will the councillors, chance to ask the senior licensing officer about her report. When that's all gone through, we will give the applicant the floor then to put their case forward. We will then ask, we will ask questions. The licensing officer might ask questions. Mr. Austin, you'll be allowed to ask questions. And then we will ask Mr. Austin finally to give us what he's got in front of him. And then we'll be able to ask questions of Mr. Austin. And then you will all be entitled to sum up afterwards. Have I covered everything, Laura? Thank you. Right, so without further ado, I'll hand over to... Oh, sorry, I haven't done apologies. Yes, sorry. Yeah, missed that one out. That was the one or two bits of procedure I needed to go through. So apologies.
Apologies for absence were received from Councillors Cathy Logg and David Morgan, substituted by Councillors Brian Heatley and Susan Cocking.
Thank you very much, John. And declarations of interest. Councillors, any declarations of interest?
Nothing from me.
Nothing from me, Chair.
Thank you. Right, now we'll move to the licensing officer. Over to you, Catherine.
Thank you, Chair. This hearing is to consider a new premises licence application for Asda Express, 512 to 514 Wimborne Road, Ferndown. The application is for the supply of alcohol off the premises, Monday to Sunday from 6 a.m. till midnight, and from the 1st to the 31st of December, 24 hours Monday to Sunday if permitted by trading restrictions. Also late night refreshment indoors and outdoors, hot beverages only. Monday to Sunday, 2300 to 2400 hours, and on the 1st to the 31st of December, 2300 to 0500 hours, Monday to Sunday, if permitted by trading restrictions. The application is at Appendix 1. There were no representations received from any of the responsible authorities. There were, however, 11 relevant representations received from interested parties, and these can be found at Appendix 2. Some of the representations contains matters which are material considerations under planning and do not relate to any of the 4 licensing objectives. This would include matters relating to the amenity and or need for similar premises in the area, highways or parking issues. These points would have been taken into consideration under the planning application, which was granted in December 2022. I'd like to remind everyone here today that we are only here to consider the application for the alcohol and late night refreshment licence. The options available to members are to grant a licence subject to such conditions as the authority considers appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives and the mandatory conditions, to exclude from the scope of the licence any of the licensable activities to which the application relates, refuse to specify a person in the licence as the designated premises supervisor, or to reject the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Councillors, any questions for Catherine?
Thank you. Couple of items for the context of this. I don't think I've ever seen an application which has wanted to be able to sell alcohol at any time for the whole of the month of December. Do you know any precedents for this? I mean, is it something that is common elsewhere, or?
It's not overly common, but it does happen. But what other places will do, will put a temporary event notice in.
And equally, this is a premises where there are a number of other premises selling alcohol thereabouts. What are their late night limits? Do they normally go up to an 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock?
There are a few in the area. The average seems to be around 11 p.m. at night. But obviously, it's fairly immaterial because we can only take matters, this application on its own merits. So, okay.
I haven't got anything at the moment, but I might come back later, if that's okay, Chair. Oh, right.
Thank you, Catherine. So this, can I just confirm, this is a convenience store under 280 square metres?
It's an Asda Express. As to the size of it, I am not sure, but I'm sure Mr. Taylor would probably be able to answer that question for you.
So, applicants, have you got any questions for the licensing officer?
Just one, please, Chair. Catherine, thank you very much indeed for that. Thank you for doing most of my job for me. Could you just confirm that all of the responsible authorities, the police, trading standards, planning, environmental health, were all served with a notice of this application?
Yes, they were. They were served the notice and none of them had made any comment.
And can you confirm that none of them have ever made any objections?
No objections, no.
Mr. Austin, any questions for the licensing officer?
Thank you, Chair. It's probably more of a statement than a question at this stage. You asked the question about other establishments in the proximity of Ferndown and what their licensing permits were. I do appreciate that this application must be taken on its merits, but I would have thought that at least some consideration should be given to other establishments, and the times of those establishments should be of some consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. I do understand your sentiments, but it has to be this application that we look at. Councillor Cocking wants to come back with a question.
Sorry. I just wanted to ask the licensing officer, it states on the application it is a convenience store. So do convenience stores and supermarkets have different licensing restrictions? So does a convenience store have certain restrictions under licensing and a supermarket different restrictions, or do they both have the same restrictions? Or licensable hours is the other word.
A licence is a licence for alcohol sales on and off, or in this case it's off. They're only restricted by if there's any other restrictions for planning, for what they can operate. But if there's a separation between a convenience store or supermarket, there isn't a difference.
Thank you very much. Everybody asked their question, so now we'll go over the applicant. If you'd like to put your case forward, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Well, let's just deal with a couple of things that have cropped up right from the beginning, shall we? So yes, it is a convenience store. It will not be caught by the Sunday trading legislation, so it will be able to open beyond 10 till 4 on a Sunday. Okay. So as far as this application is concerned, it's an application submitted to permit... Sorry, so are you all right to hear? Sorry. It's an application permitted that seeks to permit off sales from 6 in the morning until midnight. Planning has been granted. Planning only restricts operation until 11 o'clock. So whatever you grant today, we can't trade after 2300 without going back to the planners. So as far as this is concerned, I'll deal with the application in 3 parts, if I may. I'll deal with the applicant, which shouldn't take very long, the application and what we're proposing to do to promote the licensing objectives, how we do things like that, and I'll comment on some of the relevant issues that are referred to in the letters of representation. Well, the applicant, it is easy, it's Asda. Asda Stores Limited, I'm sure Asda is well known to the committee. There are about just short of 600 stores in England and Wales. And I have acted, members of the committee, for Asda since this legislation came into force in 2005. And I have never needed to represent the company in any review proceedings or indeed any criminal proceedings arising out of alcohol sales. And in my respectful submission, that is testament to the quality of the policies and procedures that Asda have in place and the training that it gives to its colleagues to ensure that its premises run without any difficulty whatsoever. So what are we seeking to do here? Well, we're seeking to make an application for a new Asda Express in Ferndown. The license is the last piece of the jigsaw, and this is important. There is absolutely nothing to stop Asda building this store and opening it right now, stocking all of the shelves with everything but alcohol. So when I come to close this at the end, the question that I'll ask is, well, what difference does it make whether or not there's a bottle of wine on the shelves? What difference does it make if people can come in and buy a pack of beer? So we can open this now. We'd sort late night refreshments. A late night refreshment is coffee, basically, as far as Asda is concerned. There's nothing more than that. But as we've said, we can't operate after 11 o'clock in any event. So to promote the licensing objectives, well, there's everything that you would expect to see from a major retailer who operates its stores properly. Full digital CCTV, images retained for 31 days, made available to licensing officers or any officers of the responsible authorities on request. Beyond that, all staff have a full training package that is annually refreshed. Training records are maintained, and again, those are available for the authorities on request. Asda, like all the main supermarket operators, operates Challenge 25 as its age verification policy. That is supported by till prompts, which, I'm sure you've had it yourself, whenever an alcoholic product is scanned, it stops the sale. The colleague on the checkout is required then to go through the process to engage, eye contact, and check that that person is over 20, appears to be over 25. If that person doesn't appear to be over 25, then identification is sought, and the till system supports all of that. The till system also supports the electronic refusals log. In its convenience stores, Asda doesn't do miniatures other than in gift packs. All spirits are displayed behind the counter. And then there's measures that we don't necessarily publicise, panic buttons, that sort of thing. But all of this leads to a situation, members of the committee, where Asda's stores operate without any difficulty whatsoever. And so just moving to a couple of issues raised in the representations, but when I do that, we just need to have a look at some context, and that was the reason for my questions to your licensing officer. This application has gone to all of the responsible authorities, and you know, as an experienced committee, that the Home Office says that those responsible authorities are to be considered as experts in their particular field, and the police are to be your main source of advice on crime and disorder. Issues of crime and disorder, antisocial behaviour. That's paragraph 2.1 of the guidance. The expert's point is paragraph 9 point something. It'll come to me in a minute. So none of the experts object to this application. The planners have granted it. So to the representations, we have seen, and Catherine's told us, that issues such as traffic, parking, amenity, the need for it, the impact it may have on other shops, are wholly irrelevant for the purposes of a licence application. The planners have already considered those issues and made their decisions. There is, in the letters of representation, mentions of possibilities of antisocial behaviour. Well, possibilities, exactly. Certainly it's not a concern shared by the police, and Asda has its procedures, its policies in place to ensure that people don't hang around outside. Nobody wants people hanging around outside. This is a convenience store which we expect people to come into, do their shopping, if they want to buy a bottle of wine, to do so, and then to leave the premises. If the police expected that there would be any issues, they'd be here to tell us about it. And similarly with all of the other experts. We've seen, there's also this disturbance stroke noise to the neighbourhood. Well, I really don't understand from a licensing perspective how that can come about at all, because of course we can stock everything on the shelves already. Why is a bottle of wine on a shelf going to cause more noise than a bottle of lemonade? It makes no sense at all. So, members of the committee, there is the application. It is 6 till midnight and December 24 hours if there are trading restrictions. There are trading restrictions because there's planning. We can't operate other than 6 till 11 without going back to the planners anyway. We can't operate our late hours. I was going to call it late hours catering. That's what it used to be called, late night refreshments, because we won't be open after 11 o'clock. So subject to any questions that you've got either of me on what I've said or from an operational perspective from Mr. Eccles, who's Asda's National Head of Licensing, then those are the submissions for the applicant. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. I'll ask my fellow councillors first if they've got any questions. Councillor Coughlin.
Yeah. So can you just confirm that the trading hours will be 6 to 11? Is that correct? Did I hear that correctly?
That's the maximum we can trade as far as the planning is concerned, yes. And if we wanted to trade longer, we would have to go back to the planners to ask permission.
Okay. So on the application as well, I noticed that the CCTV was just at the front of the store. Is that normal practice for a Tesco's? For an Asda Express for the smaller stores that you just? I wonder the rationale, the reasoning, just at the front and not around the whole of the store to stop if concerns about antisocial behaviour, especially if it's a smaller store. So I just wondered if that was normal practice for us.
Well, it may well be normal practice for Tesco. No, the CCTV is throughout the store. There will be cameras outside as well. So there are cameras outside, but there's also cameras throughout inside the store.
The 360 cameras.
And they're 360 cameras. Sorry, have I misunderstood the question? Oh.
I can't speak until you turn yours off. No, sorry, I meant to say that is there external cameras just on the outside of the front of the entrance, but there's none round the sides or the back. So that's what it says in the application form. So I just wanted clarification. Is that normal practice for Asda to do that in all their stores, that they just have CCTV at the entrance and exit at the front of the store, but not around the whole of the store? And why is the reason for that?
So if you are trading in a high-risk area, you would have many more cameras than you would if you're trading in a low-risk area. And what we always do is we talk to the police, we talk to any of the authorities, and if anybody says we want you to have more cameras, we want you to have a camera here, that's what we go ahead and do. But again, it's about risk and the profile of risk, and this is a low-risk store.
Let me see if I've got this right. You want a licence that will work between 11 and 12 for alcohol when you can't sell it because you haven't got the planning permission to sell anything. So why are you asking for this unless you're going to ask to change the planning permission?
There's a bit of a chicken and egg thing that goes on, that goes on here. Asda's standard application for its convenience stores is in the form that we've made it here. We have to apply for planning, and if we're bound by planning, then that's what we're. If it's the difference between being granted today and not being granted, if you find evidence, then if you want to say till 11 and 6 till 11 through the year, then that would be acceptable to Asda.
I get the impression from this you'd really like to be able to do it, to trade between 11 and 12. And I realise us giving the licence now wouldn't allow you to, but what is your sort of commercial justification or whatever for wanting to do that extra hour?
It's about flexibility. All supermarkets want as much hours as they can possibly get, for example, in the run-up to Christmas. And you will have seen perhaps temporary event notices issued, for supermarkets to open later, to open earlier even, in busy trading periods. The panacea, if you like, for a supermarket is to have a 24-hour license, because they never then have to think about licensing hours again. It's all about flexibility. So we accept that we cannot operate licensable activities out of this store at all at the moment, but as far as the planners are concerned, no later than 11 o'clock, no earlier than 6.
Thank you very much. I've got one or two questions. One is, naturally residents are a little bit concerned that the people will be hanging around outside drinking, and you have the responsibility to move those people on if they're outside the convenience store drinking under the licensing laws. What steps would you take in that case when there was a group of, I don't know, young persons outside of your establishment drinking?
Well, the answer is it's all about training. So all staff not only receive training in their responsibilities and obligations under Licensing Act 2003, but things like conflict management. So what happens is if people are hanging around outside, they're asked to move. Simple as that. And it's all about dealing with that. And if they don't do, then things escalate, and they can escalate up as far as calling the police. But it's not an issue that we, foresee here. As we understand it, there are no issues with this in the area at the moment. But we're very, very confident about the quality of the staff and the quality of the training. I mean, the last resort is to call the police, as it is with any licensed premises, and that's what the police want us to do if there are issues.
Yeah, being a former convenience store owner, I know exactly how it goes on. So that was why I asked that question, and my action was to just go and sit on my wall outside my convenience store in amongst all the people that were out there, and they soon disappeared, funny enough. But we were shut at 9 o'clock at night to start with, then we brought it back to 8, so it did become a problem. So that was my consideration how you would deal with that. So thank you very much for answering that question. Right, no more questions? No. Would you like to ask anything of the applicant, Catherine?
No, thank you, Chairman.
I'll go over to Mr. Austin. Would you like to ask anything?
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. It's really just, again, a comment on what I'm hearing. I think the reason that this is a low-risk area, as stated by the applicants, is because we do not have a premises like this in the area. It's predominantly residential, a couple of takeaways, a small convenience store. So I think that is one of the main reasons why this is a low-risk area. And the only other comment, really, that it is encouraging to hear, although it wasn't stated in the application, there are some additional measures that have just been spoken about, panic buttons, that sort of thing. There was none of that in the application. But it is encouraging that it would be commercially acceptable to Asda to trade until 11 p.m. Now, just on the face of it, that seems a lot more acceptable in a residential area. I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. Any other questions for our applicant? Anybody need to speak? No? Okay, Mr. Austin, over to you now then.
Thank you again, Chair. Thank you. Listening here today to the applicant, I'm probably speaking on behalf of my wife, who couldn't be here today. We still do have concerns regarding the Asda Ferndown licensing application, and those concerns are primarily around the proposed sale of late-night refreshment and supply of alcohol, as we've heard, from 0600 to midnight and 24 hours during December. This appears to be in total conflict with the primarily residential nature of the Wimborne Road, Beaufoys Avenue, Pinewood Road, Milburn Road neighbourhood. And I do feel that, in particular, those properties immediately adjacent to and to the rear of the new development, plus the new dwellings encompassed within the proposed development, will be adversely affected. The comments on the licensing objectives are as follows. So Part A, general, we have no comment. Part B, the prevention of crime and disorder. The application stated that CCTV will be installed, and we've heard a little bit more about that today. But there were no other measures stated. But as again, we have heard of some additional measures now. C, public safety. The application simply stated that compliance with health and safety legislation, which did appear to me somewhat vague and even just a little bit of a cop-out, just to state that we will comply with health and safety. A company the size of Asda must surely be able to provide some assurance that public safety will not be compromised. And again, we have heard a little bit more directly from the applicant today. D, prevention of public nuisance. There was nothing stated in the application at all. Nothing written down at all in the application. So where alcohol is concerned, and particular late night alcohol sales, surely some measures must be put in place. This section appeared to completely disregard and dismiss the need to prevent public nuisance in a residential area. And objective E, prevention of children from harm, we had no comment. So to summarise, we objected to the initial planning application on the basis that there were already ample supermarkets, convenience stores in the Ferndown area, and there seemed to be a far more urgent need for affordable housing. However, the Ferndown Town Council recommended approval, and so we have no choice but to accept that the planning permission has been granted. However, we do object strongly to the Asda Ferndown licensing application and urge this board to give this application your utmost consideration and, as a minimum, reduce the times for the sale of alcohol from 0600 to 2200, which would at least be in line with the closing times of the 2 takeaway establishments nearby. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Austin. I'll ask my councillors if they have any questions for you. Mr. Austin. No, thank you very much for all you've gone through there. The evidence base is not there yet because there's nothing there, so there is no evidence. But I'll just remind everybody, if the licence is granted or not granted, but if it is granted, you have a right to review, bring the licence to review through our Dorset Council licensing officers. That's the one good thing about licensing. If something's wrong, you can come back and we can make it right. So that's a really good point. I'll now ask Catherine, have you got anything to add?
No, nothing. Thank you, Chairman.
Applicants?
Sorry, Chair, are we on questions for Mr. Austin? No, I have no questions for Mr. Austin, thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll with no further questions, covered everything so far, Laura? Thank you very much. Just to go back now, we'll summarise. Just to let you know, I did visit Ferndown Road, sorry, Wimborne Road in Ferndown on Monday. It took me hour and 30 minutes to get there from Beer Regis, and only to find it one way it was shut. So traffic was a chaos, absolute chaos. But I did visit it, so I do understand the area that it is in. I take my responsibilities on this chair and this subcommittee very, very, very personally. So I know what it's like. So, Mr. Austin, if you'd like to add anything that you think you forgot, or if you've covered everything you want to add, it's over to you again now, because we'll sum up, but we'll go the reverse order.
No, thank you, Chair. I think I've summarised everything that I wanted to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Applicants.
Just very briefly then, Chair, thank you very much indeed. You just covered my point about making applications or making decisions on the basis of the evidence, which is of course what the guidance requires. But one thing that the guidance does require, and which is echoed almost to the word by your own policy, is paragraph 10.15 of the Home Office guidance. And 10.15 says, shops, stores and supermarkets should normally be free to provide sales of alcohol for consumption off the premises at any times when the retail outlet is open for shopping, unless there are good reasons based on the licensing objectives for restricting those hours. And as I say, that's almost to the word what your policy at paragraph 6.13 or 6.13 is considered. So the question is there any evidence based on the licensing objectives for not allowing this store to put alcohol on some of its shelves? And in my respectful submission, the answer is no, there's no such evidence at all. The evidence in favour is you've got a reputable operator, 600 odd stores serving millions of customers a week, which has never been reviewed or prosecuted for alcohol issues. Policies and procedures are excellent, has produced a good package of measures to promote the licensing objectives. No representations for any of the authorities, the experts, as we dealt with later. And interestingly, not a shred of evidence of any Asda causing any problems elsewhere at all. It would have been very easy for somebody to come, well, there's a convenience store here or an Asda here, and there's also no end of problems, but there's nothing. There's nothing at all. I understand, and Asda understands, that there is some anti-feeling, and it will be for Asda to deal with that when the store opens, with or without a licence. But in my respectful submission, what we've heard today is nothing but concerns about what might happen. And of course, we never make licensing decisions on the basis of guesswork and supposition. So in all of the circumstances, members of the committee, I'd ask you to consider the evidence, find that there's no evidence not to grant this. You could also find that there's no evidence to restrict the hours and grant the application. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Catherine, have you got anything else to add?
No, thank you, Chairman, no.
Okay, well, I think we're nearly at an end there. We're certainly at the end of item number 4. Let me get where I need to be. And that's not where I'm meant to be. Just looking at procedure. Sorry. So, that was the applications. We've got no urgent items. We got any exempt business? Sorry. All right. Yeah, first of all, I want to remind everybody that we will now retire to exempt to discuss what we've heard today. We will make a decision, and that decision notice will go out within 5 working days. You should have it before then if you're on email. And then you have 21 days to appeal the decision of the committee. Anything else, Lara?
No, Chairman, I think covered everything.
What were you saying? Right, so I'm now going to ask for a proposal to move into exempt business.
I propose we move into exempt business.
Thank you very much. So we're going to move into exempt business. So thank you very much for your attendance, Mr. Austin, today. And the applicants, thank you very much for your attendance. Thank you very much for the people in the public gallery for attending. I hope everybody believes they've had a fair hearing today, and we'll notify you as soon as possible. Okay. Thank you very much.